However, stroke is still commoner in the elderly people because of the aging process. Their own blood vessel is already hardened and thickened, so they are prone to more having stroke. Yeah.
Okay, and you made this point about high blood pressure.
Yes.
Let's talk more about this, because you said it is when it is uncontrolled.
Yeah.
So it means that if somebody has a high blood pressure and the person is using the medication, you know, the person is not likely to have a stroke.
Actually, there are a lot of risk factors for stroke, and the single most important one is uncontrolled hypertension. There are other ones. We actually classify them into modifiable and non-modifiable. Now, by modifiable, we mean the one that you can do something about. So, hypertension, you can do something about it by checking your blood pressure regularly, taking your medications regularly, and if the blood pressure is well controlled, the risk of stroke is reduced dramatically. Things like diabetes mellitus, these are risk factors for stroke. So if the blood sugar is well controlled, the risk is reduced dramatically. Things like smoking, because smoking damages the blood vessel. So if you stop smoking, the risk of having stroke is reduced. So, and things like dyslipidemia, that is high level of fat and cholesterol in the blood. The diet is very important. And in Africans, the single most important predisposition to blood pressure, hypertension is excessive salt intake. That's the common salt, the sodium chloride that we use in our food. So salt comes in different forms, in terms of table salts, seasonings, canned food. So, and the consumption of high level of salt predisposes us to hypertension in Africa. Then also consumption of some other food substances. So as I was saying earlier that...
Like the fat you mentioned.
Yes, fat. Now the fat, if you eat a lot of fatty food, fried foods and all those things, it can increase the amount of fat in our blood, which will predispose us to having clot form in our blood vessels and then can lead to stroke. So the diet is very important. That's why we have to learn to eat more vegetables and fish that contain omega-3 fatty acid, which is good for the body. So our diet is extremely important.
Okay, now let's go to the signs.
Yeah.
That one can look out for. Maybe you're by a person and you notice these signs, then you can quickly do something.
Yes, so you need to act fast. FAST is an acronym. F is face, A is arm, and S is speech, then T is time. F, which is face, means that if you see that somebody suddenly develop weakness on one side of the face, or cannot move one side of the face, or the mouth is drooping to one side, or saliva is coming out from one side, find it difficult to move one side of the face, that is likely to be stroke. It's sudden in onset, so that is face. Also, arm, if you notice that this person suddenly cannot move the arm, or find it difficult to move the arm, or you ask the person to raise the two hands up and one is falling down involuntarily, that is also likely to be stroke because it's sudden in onset. Then, 3 is that when you notice that somebody that has been talking very well before just suddenly is unable to talk well, or cannot understand what people are saying, or just saying anything, and is sudden in onset, those are some of the signs of stroke. Now, the T there is time. That is, you have to call for medical attention immediately or take the person to hospital immediately. Now, the other thing that a patient with stroke can present with, patient with stroke can present with blurring of vision, or even blind. The patient can become blind or lose have dizziness, or unable to walk very well, lack of balance. So there are so many ways.
And if, for instance, I'm by somebody who I think has got some of the signs, what can I do as a person?
So the first thing you need to do is to call for help. If you are not a medical person, call for help and take the patient to the hospital immediately. Now, if the patient is unconscious, because another thing is that a stroke patient can actually become unconscious within few seconds. So you need to position the patient properly, place the patient on the side. Don't let the patient lie on the back so that the tongue will not fall back and block the breathing. Then place the patient on the side, then quickly call for medical help and take the patient to the hospital immediately.
The first thing I can do is to, if I see someone with such symptoms or signs, should place the person on the side and not on the back.
No, not on the back.
Okay. Yes. And some of these signs, I will call them late signs, because it is already happening so fast and there's really, nothing that a person around can do, not so much the person can do. So what can we do to make sure that we know our status?
Very good. It is very important. As I said earlier, the single most important factor for stroke is hypertension. And I qualify it by saying uncontrolled hypertension. Now, and unfortunately, the burden of stroke is more in Africans because hypertension is commoner in us. So what we need to do to know our status is, one, make sure that we check our blood pressure regularly. And if you are hypertensive, go to your doctor, let the doctor check you, check your possible risk factors, and do something, control it. Sometimes it may be that you need to reduce your weight. Sometimes it may be that you need to change your diet. Sometimes it may be that you need to be more active physically. Sometimes it may be that you need to be on some medications. So those are important things. Hypertension is the single most important killer, as in the stroke. So if you can control hypertension, a lot of the incidents of stroke will reduce.
Okay, and for those who have the stroke already,
now,
the management, what's it like?
For those who have the stroke already, now the management of stroke is a multidisciplinary approach. So when the patient gets to the hospital, is attended to by emergency doctors who starts emergency resuscitation, puts fluid and all those things. Then you need to do imaging of the brain. You need to do a scan of the brain to show the type of stroke that the patient has, whether it is ischemic or hemorrhagic. By ischemic, I mean the one that something blocks, whereas hemorrhagic is the one that bursts. So patients will be treated in the emergency. A doctor, a nurse, a physiotherapist, occupational therapist, speech therapist, those are the people involved. And the rehabilitation of the patient is very important. The patient needs the support of the family, community support, because a lot of them may come down with disability. They might need to change their job. So occupational therapy is very important. Physiotherapist is very important to train them, the muscles that are weak or walking, and all those things are very, so it's a multidisciplinary approach. But the most important thing is secondary prevention. So if somebody has already had a stroke, you have to prevent another stroke from occurring.
So another one could occur?
Yes, another one could occur. And when another one occurs, the chances of survival is slim. It's very low. So another one could occur. So the person should have a clinic or an hospital where they go for regular checkup and secondary prevention.
Thank you so much for coming today on Health Matters. When we come back, we'll be looking into the renewed grounds of the National Association of Resident Doctors against the federal government. That's on the news segment. Just stay with us.
It opens with a gate of arts, moves into windows of creativity.
She finds the only English word she knows from somewhere hidden in the belly of a 4'9" body, and instead of "I won't get it," she greets us with "bye-bye."
Branches into rooms of color, and ends with a roof of imagination. Walk into Art House. The pieces all come together at 9:30 p.m. every Saturday. Art House, life is art.
We'll start off the news segment with a report on the renewed grounds of the National Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, against the federal government over issues of residency training for its members. The association, through its president, Dr. Ismail Lawal, is complaining of lack of inadequate funds for the training of resident doctors in Nigeria, a reason given for a 3-day warning strike. However, the Minister of Health, Professor Onyebuchi, in a press statement, condemned the strike action, saying there had been a meeting with members of the Association of Resident Doctors in Irua Specialist Teaching Hospital, the management board of the hospital, and the Nigerian Medical Association over some industrial issues between the resident doctors and management of the institution. This is believed to be the underlying cause of the call for a general strike. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Medical Association, NMA, has intervened in the matter. The enemy advised the resident doctors to put on hold any strike action to make room for further peaceful and constructive engagement.